Welcome into another special edition of the Inside Princeton Vikings Athletics podcast here on VikeNation.org and ESPN Media powered by Sidearm Sports. I'm Jason Griefer. Today, we're joined by boys tennis coach Brian Mulholland to talk about his team, where they're at right now as far as the season goes, and where they're going towards the postseason. Brian, appreciate some time here today to talk about your program. And a lot of things going on right now, a lot of things to shuffle around, if you will, with the postseason looming. And we're going to talk about some of that here in just a moment. But first, I want to touch on the Coaches Classic, which is always a big event, just took place over the weekend. You were in a really difficult flight in that outing with Seven Hills, Kings, and Harrison. So some really tough competition that you were in there with. How did you feel like you guys fared in that one? And how do you think that served as a litmus test for what they're going to see coming up here in the postseason in just a bit?
Yeah, it did turn out to be a tough group to play with. First, you play every school, so just kind of rotate through an 8-game pro sets. The first round, I think, kind of set the tone for the rest of the day, and we played good, but in the end, we could not pull out the victory on 4 of the 5 courts. And then after that, it kind of seemed to go downhill a little bit. So momentum was lost after that first one, but it was a tough group for us. Seven Hills almost swept everything, but still lessons learned. And as I tell the guys, every time we step on the court, we need to get better. And I think that happened. One of the guys we had moved recently to singles, Raymond Richards, he was able to pull out a second place finish. And I think that was a huge boost to his confidence. And we'd been playing in doubles, first doubles all year, and he liked singles, and he did well.
What's precipitated that move for him, especially so late in the season, moving him to single?
He's just not looked comfortable at first doubles. He said at the beginning of the season he'd like to play both. Like I've always seen him as a doubles player, but said he'd like to play a little bit singles more. And so I think we tried that one time prior, and he actually, I think we did that at Mason, and he showed well, and his confidence grew, and said, let's do that for the coaches, and prove to be the right thing. So we'll still, like yesterday, we still put him back in doubles. It's just going to depend on our competition and where their strengths and weaknesses lie. But yeah, he showed up well, and it was a good confidence boost for him.
You mentioned there in kind of how things got going, and it was kind of, you were in things early on, and it couldn't, and came up a little short, and that seemed to kind of snowball from there, and really started to take some momentum away from your team there at the Coaches Classic. How much does momentum play in any kind of event, whether it's a Coaches Classic or just a straight up head to head, three single, 2 double type of thing against another school? Does that happen from time to time where, if your first single comes out and they come up a little short, can that feed down through the rest? How much does that play in?
It shouldn't as much at the coaches, because it's an unconventional setting. There's 10 courts and your team's scattered all over. So you're not as, you don't quite know what's going on with your other teammates. Whereas in a, 5-on-5 match, you're all lined up in a row, and everybody kind of has a feeling of, they're watching the scoreboard to see how we're doing. So, if you see your teammates are winning, then that kind of urges you on. And it can also, if you're losing, that you need to step up, but it doesn't always have that effect. But they all came off the court at the same time and of the first round. And so everybody knew we had gone 1-4 in the first round. So, disheartening, and you got to kind of pick it back up and restart again, which is difficult.
You go through and overall with the season, you come out a couple of nice wins early on over Northwest and Middletown, and then you start hitting a little bit of a rough spot there. The Lakota schools come in and get you pretty good. However, as of late, started to turn around just a bit. We have a sweep over Coleraine, a really nice gutty 3-2 win over Hamilton. On Monday, you take out West Claremont there out of the ECC. You beat them 4-1. Sycamore and Mason are sandwiched in there, and we don't need to get into Sycamore and Mason. Everybody knows how the prowess of those programs, and you obviously saw it firsthand. But I just want to get your impression on the fact that as of late, overall, your guys are putting together and stacking up the wins. Do you think that momentum can carry on as we head forward and look forward to the rest of this week and obviously the GMCs over the weekend?
It's been a long time since this program has been at 500. The first year I came in, could barely scrape together 7 guys and didn't win a match. And over time, we're slowly building. And if we were to win our next 2 matches, we would finish it, I believe, 7-6.
Mm-hmm.
So that is the goal, and that's what I've been throwing in front of the guys. Is we've come a long way, and it would be a great thing for this program to have a winning record. So that is really what we're shooting for as we round up. But yeah, the league is tough. Mason and Sycamore, Oak Hills has risen to the top. They're third or fourth there with go to East, and then go to West is always solid. Fairfield's been pretty solid over the last few years. So we've done what we've beaten who we should beat, and we've lost to who we should beat. I've lost to so far in the league.
When you go through a league like this and trying to build your program, as you said, the goal this year, which is, as we've said, now attainable, to finish over 500. How do you balance trying to build a program without necessarily losing the confidence of the guys when they see, all these so many good teams across the way and know that there are 3 or 4 teams in this conference that have the potential to go win a state title? How do you balance that?
It's about scheduling. You've got to schedule matches that you're going to be in, because we'd already run through the gauntlet. You don't need to do that anymore. You've got to build confidence when you can. So we try to do that early, and we're trying to finish strong with that. So you've got to pick teams that you can really play with and have good matches with, and hopefully get the W.
So now that you've gone through the gauntlet once in the regular season, you're going to head up to Mason this weekend to compete in the GMC Championships. And obviously, as we documented, it's going to be a tall order to try and come through the field there and try and get up there where you would ultimately like to be. But how do you feel like your guys are playing right now in relation to their ability to go up there and compete with the biggest and the best in the GMC?
We are definitely better than we were at the beginning of the season. I think confidence is growing a little bit. In terms of the conference tournament, you're trying to move up a spot. In terms of all the big guys, Fairfield is a team we got a match from. We lost 4-1 instead of 5-0 as everybody else. So you're trying to find places that you could maybe squeeze one of those out and get a few more points. And then you've obviously got to take care of business over the teams that you have already. So it's all about trying to accumulate points. Right now we're in 7th. Is there any way that we could accumulate some points and get up to the 6th? And that's what we're shooting for.
So you've got an opportunity there to do that. As you said, you took one off of Fairfield earlier in the season, so that the realistic possibility, it's certainly there for the GMCs. We also now know the postseason draw, the sectional draws just came out within the last 48 hours. And so we now have an idea of where that's going to happen, or what's going to happen there. You're going to head up to ATP for those particular events. And I'm just curious overall. Let's start with the singles first. Raymond Richards, Veer Patel, Jamal Booker. What did you make of the draw when they came out? Look at some of Booker's going to take on a young man from Walnut Hills, and Walnut Hills has been the class of the ECC thus far on the season. Veer Patel is going to take on one from Elder, and they've kind of been up and down. And then finally, Raymond Richards is going to take on one from Hamilton. So I'm just curious, your thoughts on the singles draws and the chances you feel like for your guys to make a nice run and get in there a few rounds.
So what we've done this year is I always give seniors a choice. What they'd like to play as they go out. Ishan Shah is our number 1. And so he wanted the team with our number 2 to play doubles. We thought that was our best chance to get somewhere. So Ishan and DJ are going to play doubles. that moved a bunch of guys up. And so Raymond was the first one to get on the board. Hamilton came at us right away in the draw. I think it's their third singles because I think they teamed theirs up as well. So it should be a very competitive match for him. Yeah, Jamal got a tough draw. I think he was the last one on the bracket. So Walnut Hills is outstanding. That will be a tall order. And then Veer has a difficult match as well. I think that's Elder's number 2, but Veer for us usually plays number 3. So both of those have first round difficult matches.
So we look at the way things shake out from there, in particular with Raymond, taking on one from Hamilton. You win there, you get a young man from Coleraine potentially in the second round there. Do you feel like Raymond is the guy with the best draw opportunity to advance in the single and try and get a few rounds in?
Yes, absolutely. Yeah, chance with Hamilton, like I said, it's Hamilton's third single, so he's got a pretty decent chance to win that and to move on.
And then on the doubles side, you touched on it just briefly there, but doubles teams of Shamal and Patel, they're going to take on a double squad from Walnut Hills. And again, we've touched on the prowess of Walnut Hills and what they've done in the ECC this year. They are a power over there for sure. And then you mentioned the Ishan Shah, your number 1, going to team up with Dwayne Hall. They're going to get a sophomore tandem from Talawanda with the opportunity in round 2 to take on either Kings or Hamilton. What do you make of the draw there for Shah and Hall in particular and their chances to perhaps make a run? Who knows, the semifinals, even the sectional final?
They're in a good spot. The Talawanda team, I believe, is their regular first doubles team. So they've time to play together, but are 1 and 2. So I would expect a good match, but I would hope we could pull that out. And then the other teams that they could possibly run into next, I think they could definitely be in the conversation with. I put them up against when we played Mason. I teamed them up for practice against Mason, and it wasn't their normal first dubs, but a very good first doubles team, and they lost 6-4, 6-4. So they can compete, and kind of excited to see what they can do in the sectionals.
You mentioned Ishan being your number 1 single normally on the season, and the move over to doubles for him. As you said, you like to give the seniors the option on where they want to go in their final go around. How has he looked working as a double, given that he has been your number 1 single?
He's got a lot of skills. So he transitions very well. Him and DJ already have a natural chemistry. So it's a pretty smooth transition. Mentally, there's a few things you've got to consider as you're moving over. He's only played twice, so it's going to take a little bit more practice this week. But I think he'll handle it very well. And DJ also is a natural transition. DJ played mostly doubles last year, so I'm excited about the opportunity to watch them play together.
As they've progressed throughout the season, your entire squad in general, has there been one particular area with this team and where they playing, whether it be single or double, that's caught you by surprise in terms of the development there? Have you seen something that's maybe taken a bigger step than you thought could happen as we're starting to head towards the end of the season?
Unfortunately, no. I don't think I've been caught off guard by any great improvements. I think it's just steady. The biggest thing is just limiting your errors, and we're starting to do that. A lot of these matches, it's going to be who makes the fewer errors, and we're starting to put away some of those that were problematic earlier on.
So you getting now to the later point in the season, as I said earlier, playing better as things have gone along, especially over the last couple of weeks, and in the opportunity this week, assuming Mother Nature cooperates, to finish out the season potentially above 500. As we look at the way things have shaken out on the season, and you mentioned that possibility of the team, getting above 500 on the season. How have they embraced that challenge, especially knowing the schedule and seeing what's always in front of them day in and day out in the league? How have they gone about their approach and seeing that this is what the goal is, and also as the years gone on, seeing that it's attainable?
I've seen a little excitement recently that hasn't been there. A little more interest. Some of the guys are doing their own homework on other teams, trying to figure out records and who the guys are and where they've played. So that's been kind of fun to watch that interest. I do have a couple court rats that just want to play a lot. Even after matches, they'll come back and hit some more. So, there's a deep interest to succeed and do well and to get better.
With that, I'm curious to know, obviously you see the guys day in and day out, whether it's match practice or what have you, but given the way they've played, especially late in the season, and now, you've got the GMCs coming up, you're coming off the Coaches Classic, the sectional draw. Have you been able to kind of look at it and look at the team and say, okay, if we play our best, this is what we can do. This is where we can go.
Yeah. And we're on the precipice of, so far we haven't lost any match I didn't think we should have, and probably hadn't won anything that we really could have. But I think the match today and tomorrow are very close on paper. So these two are going to be real important to determine if we get to that 500 mark or not, and they're going to be very tough matches.
And you've got Ross slated later today, and then Baden coming up on Wednesday again, assuming we're able to get those matches in. I know today's looking kind of iffy with the way the weather has come through. As I said, obviously, as I said, the draw is coming. We know that and what have you. So it's going to be interesting how that shakes out. Of course, I'm curious, to get your thoughts on just kind of the run you've had with Ishan Shah as your number one. Obviously, this, as we said, this is his last go around. He's going into the doubles to try and see if he can come out of a sectional and move on beyond that. Just want to get your thoughts overall, and what's it been like for you to coach him during his career, and ultimately his progression that's led him up to this point where he's been your clear-cut number one single.
I feel sorry for Ishan in that he lost a season with he has always been a strong player. Came in as a freshman right away and played very well, but then lost that season and development and momentum. Was number one last year and continued that this year. He's very laid back, easy to coach. He's a co-captain and a strong leader, and encourages the other guys very, very well. So it's been fun to watch him grow in leadership as much as anything else. He's battling a little tendonitis the last couple of weeks, so I have seen that impact him. So we're hoping for the stretch run here that the rest that he gets is good, and he's able to go all out for these last week and a half.
A couple of more questions, and we'll let you go here. This has been the first year in essentially 3 years where we've had something close to normalcy. I don't want to say flat out normal, because nothing is really normal anymore. We're just kind of away from the height of the pandemic. And so I'm curious there how it's been for you to coach this team, given that the last couple of years have been so topsy-turvy, so much uncertainty in whether or not matches will be played. Obviously, we mentioned a couple of years ago, the season was lost due to COVID, but now we're in a position where COVID and the protocols aren't necessarily the most forefront thing on everybody's minds, and we can focus on the day-to-day grind of getting better, getting the practices in, getting matches in. How has that been for you coaching this team to be able to have that back at the forefront of things?
Well, thankfully we were outside, and so when in the heart of COVID, we were still separated outside, and so it was a good situation, not a lot of worry, but there was a lot of other things that we had to do that took up a lot of our time, taking temperatures and recording them and all those types of things. So it's a great relief to not have to do that and just be able to focus on the tennis. And the guys I know are extremely thankful for that as well, because that was cumbersome day after day after day.
Absolutely. And Well, it gives us the opportunity now to talk about the kids and what they've been able to do, particularly this year, and all the momentum that the program has been building. As we've touched on here today, the opportunity to finish over 500 on the season, which hasn't been done in a while. The draws, seemingly there's some opportunities to make some nice runs in the draw as well. You mentioned the fact early on in your tenure, it was a struggle to get enough guys out there to really compete the way you want to compete. So with that, as we look forward going into the rest of this season and into the off season, into the future, where do you see the future of this program being at?
Well, we've got some guys that really want to play and really want to get better. That's been a struggle in the years past, is to get guys. This is a year-round sport now, and every day you're not playing, somebody else is, and getting better. So you've got to be playing year-round if you want to progress. So we've got guys that want to do that this year. We were able to do a preseason program indoors, and got guys out there hitting who never would have been hitting in January and into February. So that's a huge aspect of it as well. Our JV program boomed this year. We've had over 21 guys on both rosters, which was usually just difficult to come up with 14. So actually a couple of our varsity players have grabbed their friends, and we've got a bunch of sophomores on JV now. So not guys who've played, but guys who are athletic and want to play and want to get better. So there's opportunities for these guys that want to make tennis their sport over the next couple of years. There's plenty of opportunity to get better and help grow the program. We're going to lose 2 seniors so on varsity, so we're going to need some guys to step up
and give them an opportunity to step into a program that is on the rise in the GMC. And that's a good thing when Princeton is in the contention in any sport, but in particular a sport like this in tennis, where it's as difficult as it is, as we talked about here on the program. But there is optimism going forward, not only this season, but going into the future. Brian Mulholland, we certainly appreciate the time today, and we wish you the best of luck as you head towards the postseason.
All right. Thanks, Jason. Take care.
Absolutely. That is Brian Mulholland, boys tennis coach at Princeton High School, joining us this week for a special edition of Inside Princeton Vikings Athletics here on VikingNation.org and ESPN Media, powered by Sidearm Sports.